Hello, welcome. Thank you for coming. Happy Tuesday. It's good to have you here. Today is going to be a little bit of a different day. On the schedule, we're supposed to go into like genericity and functors, but I don't want to do that yet. I think I'm going to push that to tomorrow. And so today is going to be more of like an interactive work day, and we'll see how we like it. So in terms of reminders or announcements, for homework 1, you should have your script done by now. Question? Oh, okay. So your script should be done. And so your task for this week is to, once you've got your script, create a minimal prototype. And so that's like the start small and get something that works. So have like your exec class that does a few things, that gets some input from the user. Maybe it prints out some information and then uses a scanner to get stuff input. So a minimal prototype, that's the goal for this week. So it doesn't have to be all this, your big fancy program, just something that works.
Oh, because it's lab 4.
Yeah.
Can I ask lab 4 questions right now?
Wait just a second. Okay. The other thing, I would like you to implement the binary array class this week. That should be fairly straightforward. So you should have your constructor pretty much done. And from there, it's mostly just getters and setters. Your getters and setters are not going to be just default from the source action. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but I would like you to get that done this week. And then also, I would like you to create a plan to work on the binary array driver. So the code that I have, let's pull it up. Homework 1. Binary array and the driver. So in the driver code, I have all of these prompts. Oops, I forgot to turn off night shift. So it's got all of these prompts. So I have most of the notes in there for you. And so I would just like you to plan what you need for this. And yeah, so go through it and maybe start to write code. But I would focus is prototype for the heist and implement the binary array class. How's that sound?
We'll figure it out.
Okay, yeah, please. Reminder to contact me if you run into errors, if you're totally confused, if you've got questions, send me an email. And a reminder, homework 1 is due in 2 weeks. Okay, lab 4, question.
Yeah, so I had this issue and I heard from other students that had the same issue. When I'm running the test. So I implemented all the methods according to the UML
Mm-hmm.
and what you read. And then I run all the tests and I get this issue with get type.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so that's the announcement that I sent out.
Oh, you did?
Um,
Could be good, sorry.
wait, did you get that? Did I send it to the right class? Okay, good. Moment of panic. I'm always afraid that I'm going to send it to my other class and then they're all going to be really confused. But yeah,
Addresses that issue?
yes. Yeah, so the issue is as I was porting the labs over for us to use, there was a discrepancy between here's what's in the UML diagram and what's in the tests. And so the issue was, let me pull that up, lab 04. So I'll open up the image and then, so I'll talk about it. So in the old version of this lab, the get type was where did that go? Wait, is there not even a get type?
That was my problem.
Okay. All right, yeah, so I fixed something, but I didn't fix everything. That's my bad. So in the previous version of this lab, there was a method, an abstract method called get type. And that it was an abstract method in employee, and it was inherited by all of these. And the non-abstract class, the job is to print, here's the type of object that which it is. And so like for salary employee, it's salaried. For temporary, it's literally the string temporary, which looks like it got subsumed into the get title. The get title. Get title. Okay, yeah. So this is my bad. This is my bad. I didn't catch this beforehand. And so it's still going to give you an error. So even if you download this, and it's still going to give you an error because it's calling get type, and get type doesn't exist anymore. So here's what we're gonna do. Okay. I'm changing it from get type to title.
Because I feel like we haven't really been over like the process of running your tests, getting errors, how to fix that, you know, like as a class, this could be a learning opportunity. I'm hearing through the grapevine, like the whispers on the class that people are struggling with this.
Yeah, okay, okay. Okay, I think that may be it. Okay, so what I've done is instead of get type, which was in the old version of the lab, now it's get title. So hopefully that fixes everything. It probably won't. Okay, so now what you can do is, so I've updated the payroll tests. So what you can do now is you can navigate to this file. So if you go to the link and then you click on through until you get to the payroll test.java, you can download the file. So if I do that, then you can save it in your, so like 222 labs, this is lab 4. If I go and save it in my solution, then I'll save it here and just replace it. Right, so just replace the old test that you have with the new tests. And then it should work. And if it doesn't, please let me know.
Do you want us to update the tests
Right.
with the new one?
Download the new test file.
Got it.
Yeah. And I apologize on my part for that. Yeah.
Does it save the changes? Like, can I see change history for the tests on the GitHub?
Yes.
In case it doesn't work, I could change it myself by making some edits.
You can, yeah, so here you can see, here's the different.
But
Yeah.
I had an issue with creating supplier as well, where like even though it's in the main package and at the top I have package main, I get an error putting it in that package, So at all the classes that I implemented and I'm extending, they all literature errors, one that works.
Um, let's come talk to me after class.
Oh,
Yeah.
like the override doesn't work, and get net pay, which is one of the inherited
Yeah,
implemented.
it should work. Is anyone else having that issue? Are you having that issue? Oh, okay. Okay.
You have issues with supplier and the package? Well, this job is completely. Oh, yeah, and I haven't been able to, you know, when you run the test and it says something about the build?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think any of my builds have run correctly ever.
Okay, we'll have some time in a bit and I'll walk around and I'll address that. Anyone else having any major work stopping issues in the lab?
Just like getting, as my results, like I keep getting zeros for everything. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to.
Are you returning things in your methods? Okay, I'll come around. Yeah, I'll come around later as well. Okay. All right, any other comments, questions, concerns for lab 4? Okay. All right, so my other announcements and reminders, the tech club, which I am helping to run, is having a thing tomorrow. So we're gonna be doing, let me pull up the actual, nope, not that one, this one. So we're having a coding challenge tomorrow. So you can come and bring a computer and you can, I'll have some problems that you will work on and then you can,
3 hours of pizza coding challenges and prepping for job interviews.
so it's pizza and coding challenges, which the coding challenges prepare you for job interviews.
We're gonna be good class during that period, try and make it.
Cool. Yeah, can I have a show of hand of who may be interested in going? Okay, cool.
It's free, right?
Yeah, the food is free. I have to order the pizza and I also have to figure out how I'm gonna get the pizza because I have office hours until 5 and the thing starts at 5.
No,
Lord.
no. Don't support her that. DoorDash is an awesome company. It's fine. Which one? The horseshoes.
I'll probably just get like Mountain Mike's or something.
That's fair.
That's what I remember from when I was a student here. Anyway, the first okay, so I look forward to seeing you there. It should be fun. We're gonna have 2 or 3 coding challenges and you can talk with other people who are interested in computer science and we'll talk a little bit about where you want the club to go. And I think we're looking for officers, so if you're also interested in that, let me know. Okay, so that should be fun. Please come. All right, so I'm not gonna record for the whole class time. I just want to go over like briefly a review of what we talked about last time. I'll look at an example where we come up with the unit circle using the stretchable interface. And then for the rest of the class, we're gonna try something new. So we're going to have an activity where you like draw something on the board, come up with a hierarchy and draw it. And then I have the assignment, which was formerly homework 2. I've republished it. But that's going to be our active learning for the day, where it's not, the goal is not to get it to like homework assignment level, but just to have practice creating and designing these classes according to a specification that I give you.
So it's gonna be active learning?
Yes. Yeah. So that's our active learning for today. And then once you're done with that, however long that takes, then the rest of the time is going to be work time for you. So I'm only going to record up until here or so, and then that'll be it. Is there a question back there?
It's nothing for math projects.
Oh, sorry, I can't help that. Okay. All right, I was back over here. All right, so to remind you of where we're at, we've been looking at inheritance in Java. So we looked not only at extending classes, but we looked at having like an abstract class, which is a placeholder for other classes in the hierarchy. So our working example, we've got our shape hierarchy, where shape is the abstract class that holds this all together. And shape has abstract methods that every shape must implement. And so those are area and perimeter. And so having an abstract class lets us have this placeholder class that can tie everything together. So similarly in the lab, we've got employee, and employee is the placeholder class that from there we get salary employee and then on to temporary and staff. We also looked at interfaces. And so interfaces lets us say, this is a list of methods that I would like any class that uses this interface to implement. So we can say that like some shapes are stretchable. Maybe some employees are payable. Maybe some beverages are carbonated. And so Java does not allow multiple inheritance. So since we don't let, we can't have like a student employee class that takes things from both student and employee if we want student employee to be able to do things that both a student and an employee can do. So that's not allowed in Java. Instead, we kind of get around that using interfaces, where an interface is a method contract. So it's a list of methods that anything that uses this interface must implement. So recall they're implicitly public and abstract methods. There's other options available, but implicitly they're all public abstract. So your interface is going to look pretty simple. It's just the method signature and then semicolon.
I have a question. Are abstract methods like actually necessary, or is it just to like write cleaner code?
I would argue that abstract methods are necessary and useful. Like, what situation would you think that they're not necessary?
I just don't like writing.
I mean, so we're in object-oriented land. And so for like an employee, it makes sense to have abstract methods for gross pay and taxes. Because the gross pay and taxes, that differs depending on what type of employee you are. And so,
You have to write it twice regardless. But now you're just writing the third time.
well, it depends on what you mean by writing. So with an abstract method, we're just saying, here's the signature. This is the method that I want anything that inherits this to implement. And so then for salary employee, then it actually defines, here's what the gross pay is, here's what the taxes are. Because it's the salary employee taxes are different from the temporary employee taxes. And so we don't want to have any sort of default implementation that risks not being overridden. Because we don't want anyone to accidentally not have the right amount of taxes. Yeah, that would not be good for the person. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, so for an interface, all declarations are implicitly public. You can have instance data, which is like a variable in the interface. That serves as kind of like a global variable. And if you choose to have that, that's implicitly public, static, and final. Okay. Remember last time, an interface is not a class. So even though it can have methods, even though it can have fields, an interface is not a class. It's just it's a contract where it says anything that implements this, it's got to have these methods. Yeah. So we use it with class A implements C. So implements is the keyword for interfaces. And if we're extending anything, it goes after the extends bit. So we have A extends B, implements C. And we can have possibly many interfaces. Okay, so we talked about the is a relationship holds. So like a rectangle is stretchable. If we have like a beverage hierarchy, and coffee does not implement the interface, then we say coffee is not carbonated. Carbonated is our interface. So we can say is or is not for interfaces. Yeah, we talked about that. Interfaces can extend under other interfaces, but there's also the interface is inherited. So let me pause this for a second. I have to open up VS Code because I closed it beforehand in class. Okay, so last time, so we had rectangle. So we've got our interface stretchable. We have our rectangle that implements stretchable. The thing is, for our square just extends rectangle, and we don't say that it implements stretchable. But it still is, a square still is stretchable because the interface gets inherited into the hierarchy. So for the lab, employee and supplier both implement the get net pay interface. So because of that, get net pay is a method that gets inherited all through the employee hierarchy. So salary employee, even though it doesn't explicitly implement the payable interface, it still has a get net pay method because it inherited it from employee, which got it from the interface. So the methods get inherited when a class gets extended. Yeah, so a square is implicitly stretchable because we said that a rectangle is stretchable. Okay, so I want to look at, let's make quickly a unit circle class. Whoops, did not want to do that. So I'm going to make a unit circle.java. And there's a couple different options that we have at this point. So we have in our hierarchy, we've got circle. And so a unit circle is technically a circle, right? It's just like a more specific kind of circle where the radius is always 1. But we could say a circle implements stretchable because we can stretch a circle. We can just increase the radius. And so did I do this already? No, I didn't. Okay, it's not showing up. Let me try to clear the workspace. Okay, so now, all right, so when I say circle implement stretchable, now I have to say quick fix, add unimplemented methods, then down at the bottom, I'm actually going to copy this because we're going to use it. So to stretch a circle, I would say, maybe we just implement, or we multiply the radius by the factor. That kind of makes sense. If we're gonna stretch the circle by a factor of 2, maybe the circle should be twice as big. But when it comes to unit circle, we have a few options, right? So one of which is to make the unit circle extend circle. That's the natural option because a unit circle is a circle. What's the problem with that? Exactly. So it would, because if unit circle extends circle, then it inherits stretch. And we don't want that to happen. So the way I see it, we kind of have two options. One of which is to make unit circle like its own special thing and just directly extend shape. That's one option. The other option is to make it extend circle, but do this like unsupported operation exception, where we say, hey, you tried to stretch a unit circle, that's not allowed. So I think those are kind of our two options. So, okay, so let me write some things here. So the problem is that unit circle shouldn't be stretchable. So our first option is to extend shape directly and bypass using the interface. The other option is to extend circle and just throw an exception. So I just want to do extend circle. And so if I extend circle, then that way I don't have to deal with the radius and stuff anymore. And so my super constructor is just 1 because the radius of a unit circle is 1. And then I'm going to copy down what I had before. That would have. But I'm going to throw a different exception. What is it? Illegal argument? Yeah. Okay. So this is my solution for the unit circle problem. So we extend circle, but we have to add, because we've inherited the stretch method, we override the stretch method to say, no, you can't do this. Okay. Does that sound good so far? Right, so it extends circle, the radius. It could take in a radius, but it's just gonna. The radius is just 1. That's how it is for a unit circle. And we've already defined code to do that, so we don't have to write anything new because a circle knows how to set it up with a radius. So we just give it 1. And then all the other circle methods are what we want. We just need to say, hey, for stretch, I need to throw an exception saying you can't do this. Another option for this, we could just say, this dot, I think it's set radius. We could just override it and say, set the radius to 1 if you even tried. If we didn't want to crash the program when we tried to stretch, we could just say, set the radius to 1. So actually there's 3 options. Option 3 is just to do nothing when we call stretch. Just set the radius as 1. It was already 1. It will continue to be 1. We could also, another way of doing this is to just say return. So do nothing, change nothing. Okay. So that's my unit circle tangent. All right, so that's interfaces. So now we're gonna take maybe 10 minutes or so. And I would like you to get in groups with where you're sitting. I've got whiteboard markers and you're going to go to the whiteboards and draw up, come up with some examples of what you want to model. And then the activity does not match what's in my head. So you're going to come up with examples and then let me edit this. Figure out what abstract classes and or interfaces you could use. And how do you spell hierarchy? So you're gonna draw the hierarchy that you choose on the board. You can just draw just one and then come up with a question on the topic. So we're gonna take maybe 10 minutes for you to do this, draw on the board, and then we'll go around and each group can share what their example is. Yeah, sounds good. All right, I'm gonna pause the recording and we'll do this and then we'll move on to the next step. So that you can have this later if you want to go and rewatch it. So the goal here is to implement a bank hierarchy. So if I can draw. Decided to stick to literally everything else in my bag. Okay, so your goal is to come up with a bank hierarchy. So let me open do I have this up here? No, I do not. Nope, that's the wrong one. Okay. So we're gonna have a bank class. A bank has a field of a list. So it's an array list that stores accounts of all types. A bank's not an abstract class. That's just like it's an independent class. You're gonna have the account class, which is an abstract class. And an account stores the name, the account number, and then the current balance. And it has methods to access the like get, add, or subtract from the current balance. So all things that we would want to be able to do with an account. It also has a type. So like the lab, like the type of account, which is just a string of like interest or non-interest or platinum. So yeah, so only the get type method is abstract. All the rest of the ones are not abstract. You're also going to have an interest-bearing account. That's an interface. So I'll abbreviate it to IBA. That's an interface, which has a method to add the interest to an interest-bearing account. And then for our account hierarchy, there's 3 subclasses. So from account, there's interest checking account, and then there's the non-interest checking account, and there's also the platinum checking account. So a platinum checking account is an interest checking account, and this is where the interest-bearing account comes in, where these guys are interest-bearing accounts, and so we can add interest. But the non-interest checking account, that it doesn't know what to add interest because we don't know. Yeah, so we've got the specifications here. The requirements for this, because it's active learning, aren't going to be that extensive, and also we don't have that much time. So I would focus on B through H. So create a project for this and create files independently. So not using any provided code. So create files and implement as much of this as you can. And then once you're done, just zip it and submit it. Sounds good? Okay, so get in your groups that you were before. I'm gonna split up the group in the back because that's too big. And yeah, we'll do this for the rest of the class.